Hi everyone, and welcome back to today's lesson. Now today we're moving into another case study. We've already seen 3 interesting case studies. This one is on Amazon, the Amazon case study. Yes, the company that we all know that started by selling books and now is a global enterprise selling many different products and services. So in 2019, Amazon was interested in setting up its new headquarters in the city of New York. There were many negotiations that happened there, but they were not successful. And in this lesson, we're going to understand why they were not successful and how we should negotiate effectively, learning amazing and key negotiation vocabulary. So why don't you grab a notepad? Because at the end of this video, we will practice key negotiation vocabulary with many lovely exercises as well. Let's get started. Now, to kick off this session, let me just say that you can find the entire case study in the form of a short article to read in the description of this video, and it's already available. However, I do suggest that if you have a few minutes, let me first take you through some key points, because the article itself is quite intense. So when I send it to my students, they will tell me that it's a bit advanced and they have some questions in the understanding. So once we finish this lesson, you then feel free to go read the article yourself and also go through some great exercises that I've prepared especially for you to develop your vocabulary skills on this topic. Now, the agenda of this case study is to look at some background information, to go through a technique called DAD, or DAD, as I call it, to deal with opposition, to learn how Amazon engaged or didn't engage in this case with key stakeholders, how they addressed their concerns, and whether they reached a consensus, whether they reached a final agreement on this deal. So the background is the following. In 2019, Amazon planned to build its second headquarters in Queens, New York. This promised 25,000 high-paying jobs, which seemed like a win-win for everyone. They also had the support of major political leaders like the mayor of New York and the governor of New York, who had agreed to Amazon coming to New York. But shockingly, the project fell apart. Amazon pulled out and everyone was left wondering what went wrong. Strange, right? A huge multinational company like Amazon not getting what it wants. So what did go wrong? Now, before we answer that question, let's talk about why Amazon chose New York for its second headquarters in the first place. So Amazon already has its headquarters in Seattle in the US. Why would they want a second location? Big companies usually select cities that either have low rent, a lot of space, great tax incentives. But as we see here in this picture, New York, so for you who haven't traveled to New York, you'll see that it's extremely crowded. There is a lot of competition for space, especially office space, and taxes are quite high. So why did they want to go to New York? I've discussed this with many of my students, this case study, and they've come up with 2 very interesting ideas. The first one is connected to marketing, to branding. So locating your headquarters to New York, even if that means paying a ton of money for office space, is going to upgrade your brand reputation. So the company that has its headquarters in one of the wealthiest cities in the world. And the second reason, which is also quite convincing, is that there's been new research suggesting that talent, so the talented people, the talented engineers probably that Apple is looking for, are no longer willing to transfer to other cities to find work. They want to be in the cities that they've selected for their life. They want to be in major cities like New York, London, Paris, and they want the companies to come and find them there. So maybe that's why Amazon believes that even if it's more expensive, even if it's harder, that's the place to be to find talent, because New York is a business hub. And New York also has access to some of the most amazing universities around the world. Now, a company like Amazon doesn't go into a negotiation without having a strategy in mind. They have whole dedicated teams that work on the negotiation before it actually happens. So they can select the different strategies or techniques that they're going to use. And in this case, they decided to go with a technique called DAD or DAD. That stands for Decide, Announce, Defend, and it's quite an aggressive strategy. This means that they decided that New York was going to be the place for them, the preferred location. They announced the project and tried to defend it from opposition. So DAD stands for the fact that D, they decided to go to New York, A, they announced the project, and D again, they tried to defend their decision. That sounds quite simple, right? But this DAD technique is quite controversial. It's a little bit like engaging into a negotiation and telling the other person, it's either my way or the highway. So you either do as I say or I'm leaving. Quite arrogant, right? Don't you think? Well, a massive company like Amazon could use this kind of technique, and it could work since they have so much leverage. That means that they have the necessary power to convince others that they will benefit from this agreement. Who wouldn't want Amazon in their city? Great company, great publicity, lots of jobs, right? But the problem was they didn't think things through, or they didn't care enough, to be honest, because they probably had other options as well. So firstly, they didn't involve the right people in these conversations from the beginning, and a lot of opposition grew from local communities, unions, and even some political groups who wanted them in their city. So the first big lesson here is when entering into negotiations, it's extremely important to build sufficient consensus. Consensus means that a group or many groups agree and are in harmony with a decision. Amazon didn't work hard enough to gain support from all groups, like local communities and unions. In complex situations, it's important to get enough people on board to create what we call a winning coalition, a group that can support and implement your plan. The second lesson here is to actively engage with these local communities early on. So in the beginning, even before the negotiations start. Amazon was seen as an outsider to the people of New York, and they didn't hire local representatives to connect with these community groups. So Amazon could have hired some local representatives to go and talk to these community groups and understand what their concerns were. Imagine living in New York and suddenly hearing that a huge project is coming to your neighborhood without any direct communication. That's why big companies should always involve local voices to understand concerns before they become real problems. Another key lesson from this article is to anticipate opposition, anticipate concerns. What does this mean? Amazon didn't expect these local groups. They didn't expect them to unite and try to block the deal. They also didn't address many of their concerns. The people of New York were concerned about three things. They were concerned that if Amazon came to their cities, the housing costs would rise even further because so many people would be looking for housing. There would be even worse traffic congestion. So the city of New York already has tremendous traffic problems. Those would become even worse. And lastly, there was this $3 billion tax incentive that was given. Now listen to this. The mayor of New York promised Amazon that if they came to New York and set up their headquarters there, the city of New York would give them $3 billion as a tax incentive. Now, Amazon suggested that they shouldn't be concerned about this because they would quickly get it back through the taxation, through the expenses that they were going to do in the city of New York in the near term. But imagine that. Imagine how many people thought Okay, what else could we do with these $3 billion? Maybe we could fix some problems that we already have instead of just giving them out to a large multinational company. Let's break down the key negotiation takeaways from this case study so it's easier for you to navigate when you're reading the article. Number one, never ever assume support just because you have powerful allies like a big company has. Companies need to build a winning coalition by getting support from all levels in the community. Number two, actively engage with local communities because they need to feel part of this process, however small the group is with the problem, especially today with the power of social media. The voice of a few can become a huge problem in a negotiation. And number three, always anticipate opposition and be prepared to address concerns before they become large problems that you can't handle. These are the lessons that are essential for anyone involved in complex negotiations like this one. Okay, so those were the key elements of this case study. Well, the last thing I'm going to do before I leave you for today is take you through 5 great exercises that you can complete once you finish this video or once you've read the article from the description of my video. Let's get going. Okay, so this is the PDF file that I'm also going to be sharing with you at the description of this video with 5 exercises connected to the article we just discussed. So let's just quickly go through them so you know what you're doing here. Exercise number 1 are some discussion questions. For example, what were the main reasons behind Amazon's decision to withdraw from the New York headquarter project? Okay, 5 questions here. You can either think about them, try to answer them out loud, or even better, you could also write the answers down in a short paragraph. Okay, moving on to exercise number 2, we will find some advanced vocabulary for you from this article. You will have to identify and define the following advanced vocabulary from the article and then try to use each word in a sentence related to the topic that you're working in. For example, number 1 is the word to diffuse. To diffuse means to spread out over a large area, not concentrated. The sentence was, the diffuse nature of the opposition made it difficult for Amazon to address all concerns effectively. How would you use this word in a sentence? Let's move on to exercise number 3. Here we have a fill-in-the-blank exercise where you need to find the correct prepositions. Let me remind you, prepositions are those small little words like in, on, at, with, by, and so on. Exercise number 4 is a word-building table. So you have some verbs: to negotiate, to defend, to announce, to build, and to appreciate. And I want you to find the relative noun, adjective, and adverb. Now, in some cases, you don't have an adverb, and that's why I've marked these little boxes here so you're aware of that. And exercise number 5 is idioms. So idioms connected to negotiation and decision-making. 5 idioms to burn bridges. The ball is in your court. To cut your losses, throw in the towel, hit the nail on the head. What I want you to do is use each idiom in a sentence related to the topic of the article. And to help you with that, I'm also giving you some sentences here where you're going to try to fill in the gaps with one of these 5 idioms. Now, if you do need help, on page 5, you will find the answer file. Okay, so the answer file here is all given to you and the sentences as well. Try not to look at it before you try it yourself, though. All right. Okay, so these are 5 nice little exercises that you can work on, and that's the end for today. So if you feel like it, check out the full article on the Amazon negotiation case study in the description of this video and practice these 5 great exercises as I just explained to you. I'm sure it would be much easier to read now that we've gone through the key points of the case study. If you did find this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Speak Like a Leader for more business English lessons and even more interesting business case studies. Have a great day and see you next time.